Celtic Badass of the Week showcases a person of Celtic heritage each week. Those who exemplify the give no shit attitude and come out on top. They may come from our past or our present, but rest assured they come from all walks of life and legend. They are men, women, even old ladies and pirate queens. Now you don't have to be a muscled up Celt in a fur kilt swinging a mighty sword. You can just be a 4'11" Welsh woman and suffragette who knows jujitsu. Now most of these badasses are all too real, and while some of these are only legend, they're badass legends. The only prerequisite is Celtic blood and badassedness. Big Mary of the Songs. What a badass name. The Skye Celtic bard and Highland Land League hero, Mairi Mhor Nan Oran. Mairi Mhor Nan Oran was many things: a nurse, a midwife, a prisoner, and most notably a Gaelic poet and songstress. But in all of them, she was a badass. It was through her work as a Gaelic poet and songstress that she earned her hero status, and endearing her to the people of the Highlands and Islands of Scotland. Due to her being a thick chick, she garnered the name Mairi Mhor Nan Oran, meaning Big Mary of the Songs. Mairi Mhor was born in Skeabost on the Isle of Skye in 1821. She was born Mary MacDonald into a crofting family. Her early life was characterized by the rural and domestic arts typical of her gender and social class. Croft work, walking wool, making clothes, etc. Women's work. In her 27th year, though, she moved to Inverness and married a shoemaker by the name of Isaac MacPherson. Now, she lived happily until around the age of 50. In 1872, Mairi Mhor, whilst engaged in domestic work, was imprisoned for stealing clothes from her mistress. The charge was widely considered to have been trumped up and unjust, probably because even in her domestic capabilities, she was a very vocal critic of the politics of the day. Now, after her imprisonment and the death of her husband Isaac, Mary moved to Glasgow and gained a certificate in nursing and a diploma in obstetrics. However, her time and treatment whilst in prison had made a lasting impression on Mary, and revealed a talent for poetry and songwriting that had previously lain dormant. Doing time will do that. Now, the Highland clearances, they lasted well into the late 19th and early 20th centuries, the effect of them, and they were condemned by many poets and writers at the time. These things were invoked in prose and song to show opposition to the enormous power of landlords under Scottish law and calls for land reform relating to crofting, but especially the cruel treatment of the Scottish Highlanders for over 100 years through forced migration, genocide, subjugation, and famine. Mairi Mhor's poetry was contemporary with the Highland-wide struggle over crofters' land rights, and the agitation was a subject with a strong presence in her work. Mairi Mhor's talent for Gaelic poetry and the ability for storytelling made her socially and politically significant in Glasgow. She became a focal point amongst the exiled Highlanders in Glasgow and Greenock, and was present at a number of gatherings there, where she built her badass reputation. Now, Mary often drew sizable crowds for her political speeches, and in her songs, Mary represented the beauty of the Highlands, and in particularly the Isle of Skye and the strength of its people's character. Being able to communicate through the medium of Gaelic song to those that had been most affected by the Highland clearance allowed her to spread her message and her views without appraisal from local authorities. Now, Mairi Mhor returned to Skye permanently in 1882, where Mairi Mhor's work became a galvanizing force in the crofters' struggle for rights. Mary vigorously opposed the treatment and disenfranchisement of Skye crofters, and wrote songs directed at those she held responsible and the indifference of those unwilling to act. Now, this included criticism of the clergy on Skye. Here's just a small example. The preachers have so little care, seeing the ill treatment of my Isle folk, and so silent about it on the pulpit, as if brute beasts were listening to them. It's kind of powerful. In addition to criticisms of individuals and privileged groups, Mairi Mhor wrote songs that celebrated the crofters and key events in their fight for land rights. These events included the Battle of the Braes, in the year that she returned to Skye. Now, this was an incident wherein men, women, and children, armed mostly with stones, fought a force of police and soldiers sent from Glasgow to evict them. In the 19th century, women amounted to a small minority of the Gaelic poets, yet Mairi Mhor managed to span the social classes with her poetry and songs. While she was a significant influence on the working classes and crofters, she also held the acclaim of academics and scholars with whom she also formed strong, friendly relationships. Mairi Mhor's hero status has not waned with the passing of time. In 2007, she was amongst the names of a number of women commemorated for their political impact at Holyrood. Community groups in recent years have collected stories that still survive in family traditions. These stories include how Skye communities grew excited by her frequent visits, and how when in Glasgow she would deal with hecklers with a robust sense of humor. Finally, in 2013, the Island Book Trust published a historical novel of Mairi Mhor's life. Love and Music Will Endure is what it's called, demonstrating that there is still no sign of a demise of her hero status in the near future.